Labas, Privyet, and hello. Welcome to this episode of the Sprachenzentrum's Minding Your Language series. Today, we'll be getting into some more advanced forms of adjective clauses, reduced forms. If you'd like to review the basics a bit beforehand, feel free to check out the first two videos in our adjective clause series linked below. Helping us again will be Linda, our resident adjective clause expert. This time, we find her reading a scientific article in her dorm room for one of her courses. She's getting the gist of the article and finding it interesting when she stumbles over a specific sentence. The sentence in question reads, "The subjects currently in the room are aware they are being observed." Linda understands the meaning of the sentence completely, but is curious about a particular portion of it. She knows the phrase, currently in the room, is describing the noun subjects, but isn't sure how, since she learned that adjective clauses need a subject and a verb. Eventually, she shrugs and moves on. A few minutes later, however, she sees the following sentence. Subject B, a doctor, seemed to understand the underlying mechanisms. Again, she thinks to herself, "That's odd. I know the phrase a doctor is describing subject B, but the subject and verb are missing from the clause again." Linda assumes there must be some way to take normal adjective clauses and turn them into forms like these. Since she's currently writing a paper herself, she decides it would be cool to use some of these forms in her writing, so she makes an appointment at the English Writing Center on Riverbend University's campus. On the day of the appointment, she meets with John, a tutor at the writing center. She shows him the sentences from the paper she read, and he nods knowingly. "These are what are called reduced adjective clauses," he says. "They're sometimes also called participial clauses, but we'll stick to the phrase adjective clauses to keep things simple." "Let's take a look at the first sentence you found," he continues. The original sentence with a full adjective clause would be, "The subjects who are currently in the room are aware they are being observed." He goes on, giving Laura the following rule to use. In a subject adjective clause, it's possible to reduce the clause by taking out the relative pronoun and a form of the verb be. This would change the clause to the one you see in your paper. The subjects currently in the room are aware they are being observed.
Quick reminder.
The following sentence contains an example of a subject adjective clause. The people who are currently in the room are talking. Remember that every clause needs a subject, verb, and object or complement. Here, the relative pronoun who, which refers to people, is the subject. Are is the verb, and currently in the room is the complement. Object adjective clauses are a bit different. In the example, the people that we see are talking, the pronoun we is the subject, see is the main verb, and the relative pronoun that acts as an object, that is, replacing people. This type of adjective clause cannot be reduced. Alright, back to the writing center. "I see," Linda says. "That seems easy enough. So, if I have the sentence, subjects who are confused should ask for clarification, I can say, subjects confused should ask for clarification?" John quickly shakes his head. "That's actually one of the exceptions," he says. "If the be verb is followed by a single adjective, reducing the clause won't work, so we can't reduce that example." "Okay," Linda says, getting the hang of things. "What about the other sentence I brought with me? Subject B, a doctor, seemed to understand the underlying mechanisms." "Good eye," John replies. Here, the original adjective clause gets reduced from who is a doctor to a doctor. This case is a bit special because we have the noun phrase a doctor after the be verb in the clause. In cases like this, we can only reduce the clause if it's non-defining, which is why we see the commas here. Linda smiles. "So I could say, John, a great tutor, is helping me a lot with my writing?" "Exactly," John replies, smiling back. "Okay," Linda says, getting back to business. "Is there anything else I should know about reducing adjective clauses to improve my writing?" "Just a couple more things," John says. "First, you're not always going to be dealing with a be verb. Let's look at an example that uses something else. The sentence, students that take the bus to university save money. In this case, we still take out the relative pronoun. The difference is that we now have to switch the main verb to its ing form. In the end, we have, students taking the bus to university save money. Okay, Linda says. So I could change the sentence, an experiment that consists of 3 main parts is usually successful, to an experiment consisting of 3 main parts is usually successful, right? That's right, beams John. Anything else? Linda asks, eager to try out some of these forms in her paper. Just one thing, John says. If an adjective clause has a modal, like should or can in it, it can't be reduced. So we couldn't reduce something like, people that can swim have more fun in the water. Got it, Linda remarks. The clock tells her and John that the tutoring session is over. Linda thanks John and hurries back to her dorm to put these forms into action, so we'll leave her to it. Before we go, though, let's recap. Today, we've seen that subject-adjective clauses can be reduced if we keep the following in mind. If there's a be verb in an adjective clause, remove the relative pronoun and the be verb. This can't be done, however, if the be verb is followed by a single adjective. If the be verb is followed by a noun phrase, the clause can only be reduced if it is non-defining, that is, if it uses commas. If there is a verb other than the be verb, remove the relative pronoun and use the ing form of the verb in question. And finally, adjective clauses that contain modal verbs can't be reduced. Well, with that, we can wrap things up for today. Thanks for watching, and if you found this video helpful, check out the other adjective clause videos in this series or any of our other grammar and English language learning videos linked below. Okay, paka paka, see you next time!